The rhythm of healing, the octaves method. O is for observation, through stillness we find meditation and breath work that quiet the mind. In silence we listen, the answers are clear, awareness emerges, dissolving the fear. C is for compassion, for self and for all, embracing the good, the struggles, the fall. With kindness we grow, we nurture, we mend, learning to love ourselves as we extend. T is for therapy, a path we explore. Daily we practice unlocking the door. From journaling to mindfulness, healing begins. Each step is a victory as peace settles in. A is for animals and laughter so bright, like children at a play, their joy taking flight. With playfulness and movement, we rediscover the way to heal through the fun that we often delay. V is for victuals, nourishing and pure, detoxifying the body and keeping us sure. We choose what we eat with intention and grace, fueling our journey at our own pace. E is for exercise, where movement is free. We stretch and we bend in sweet harmony. Flexibility grows with choices we make. In strength and in stillness, our bodies awake. S is for socialize, where self-growth begins. Others reflect our triggers and the places within. Through relationships, our true selves we find, growing and healing with each tie that binds. The octaves method, where all behavior makes sense. We just need to find the sense it presents. We just need to find the sense it presents. We just need to find the sense it presents.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Season 5 of the Trauma and Social Work Podcast. I am KJ Alexander here with my co-host, Tonya Octave, and today we have a lot of important information to dive into. But before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and let Tonya tell a little bit more about herself and what this podcast is about.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tonya Octave, and we are going into Season 5 of Trauma and Social Work Podcast, where we will be discussing and diving deep into my book called Heal the Mind, 7 Strategies Towards Mental Wellness, Happiness, and Success, Exploring Trauma, Mental Wellness, and Ways to Live a More Balanced Life. And before we begin, just a simple reminder that this podcast is for informational purposes only. It is not intended for medical, psychological, mental health, or legal advice. Although I'm a licensed professional, this is not a formal type of treatment. We may talk about things like hypnosis and meditation and things that we would do in a therapeutic, from a therapeutic perspective, but it's not a form of treatment. For individual questions about your wellness, your happiness, and your success, please seek out a professional. And if you are experiencing a mental health crisis, do call 911 or go to your nearest emergency room.
Great. Awesome. That was amazing. So with that being said, I want to make sure I tell the audience, if you haven't already, follow this page on Spotify, YouTube, and any other platforms we post episodes on. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any upcoming episodes in the future. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Trauma and Social Work Podcast. This is episode 8. And I am here with Tonya Octave. My name is KJ Alexander, and we're continuing our series into the book Heal Thy Mind. So for today's episode, we're going to be diving into trauma-sensitive meditation. So Tonya, what would you like to share for the audience regarding this trauma-sensitive meditation?
So these are one of my favorite meditations because I feel like it gives individuals just a freeing sense to allow their minds to just like explore all these kind of possibilities. So I wanted to start off just in reading a little bit from the book. So it's in the
Okay.
section Trauma Sensitive Meditation. Beyond connecting the mind, body, and spirit, I use trauma sensitive meditation. This method offers a space to give you opportunities and suggestions about your meditation practices, where you are free from judgment and ridicule of yourself. You will begin to explore different choices and options. For those with a trauma history, their choice was taken away. Trauma patients did not have a say in the trauma, especially with developmental trauma, which occurs in childhood during developmental stages, and complex trauma, which occurs in childhood and involves more than one form of abuse, neglect, maltreatment over months into years. Trauma takes away one's ability to think independently, resulting in many people who have linear and rigid ways of thinking and reacting. Trauma-sensitive meditation practices gives those people freedom of choice to make decisions. And sometimes that decision may be not to decide. Trauma-sensitive meditation works for many reasons. One, we work on being present where the patient is at in the moment. Two, it creates a safe space. And three, there are no rules or judgments, just suggestions. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's very important when you're dealing with somebody who has a history of trauma. You definitely want to be sensitive to that fact and not put them in situations where they're not able to heal from that trauma. So it kind of brings me to my first question. So what techniques do you use or recommend to help clients develop mindfulness and meditation practices that are sensitive to potential trauma triggers, ensuring that these practices feel supportive rather than re-traumatizing?
So my trauma sensitive meditations really stems from the body of research on trauma sensitive yoga. And within that realm, as a certified practitioner of trauma sensitive yoga, there were really no meditations that were used in terms of like a parallel processing. So I said, well, let me create some of that. And so here are my thoughts about how to include trauma sensitive language into meditation work is that there are gentle introductions, that there is a begin with a gentle practice, giving freedom for people to show up in any way that they want to show up, and maybe kind of mentioning things like connecting to one's breath as one way of giving a suggestion of how people at the beginning of their practice can kind of settle into that. And so there are then suggestions that are offered in terms of different or alternative ways to breathe, and maybe alternative ways to experience things in terms of our bodily sensations. So instead of saying just breathing in the scent or of an aroma, you might give different options in terms of just even how someone will kind of connect to the sense of smell. There may also be some grounding techniques that can be used. Like one idea of connecting to the body is to ground yourself. Some people like to do this by connecting to the floor. This could either be by placing your feet on the floor, looking at the floor, touching the floor. So see how there's kind of like a variety of options, that it's not directive. The idea with trauma is when you are exposed to trauma, your choice was taken away. These meditations are to free your mind and give you a variety of options so that you then develop the capacities to start making choices for yourself, because it's going to probably feel uncomfortable at first. You're going to probably say, well, let me just follow the instructor or the person teaching, or I'll just take direction. And I'm like, no, I'll give you some options, and you listen to your body. You reconnect to your body. You do what your body tells you to do. And sometimes even within that, you may have the choice to not do anything at all. And I think that's the beautiful part of it. And that the language is also affirming that there is not this judgment. And it's inviting you to create a sense of safety and autonomy, not only in the external environment where you're practicing, but also in the internal environment.
Hmm.
It kind of leads me
Yeah.
to some other parts of the book. So I talk about here, I write, other forms of meditation can be triggering and challenging. So continual practice is hard. One may struggle with silence, uncontrolled and negative thoughts, and trauma reminders. Using these meditations, one can work through the traumatic experiences and work through wellness and work towards wellness. Through trauma sensitive meditations, patients can receive the following benefits. And the part in terms of like with trauma sensitive yoga, allows you to free the body. So in our last episode, we talked about the connection of the body, mind, and spirit. Trauma sensitive yoga helps you to free the body. Trauma sensitive meditation works with those thoughts and freeing those thoughts. And that's something that hasn't been done before. And so some of the benefits are patients work to understand, control, change thinking patterns about abuse, both in a subconscious and unconscious, both in an unconscious and conscious way. It also works with the subconscious too, especially if it's practiced consistently. They are provided with choices which are empowering and freeing. They can participate in a way that is meaningful for them. That hopefully they're working with someone trained to help patients identify bodily triggers and emotions. And one of the fifth benefit could be it provides an options for others about their voice, choice, and repair.
Yeah, so it seems like a big part of trauma sensitive meditation is listening to your own body and
And your
figuring
thoughts.
out,
So the meditation
yeah,
part is the thoughts, right?
yeah, and figuring out what kind of what your mind and body is telling you, and you can kind of go from there. So there's not a one size fits all approach. It's more of an individual approach.
Hmm. I'm
Yeah. So
curious. Would you be open to an approach or a
yeah,
practice?
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So I'll do just kind of a short example and just to kind of give some, share some stuff with the audience. So if in our audience, if they're driving, know that this isn't a practice that you probably want to participate when you're driving, because that could be dangerous for everybody else on the road.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
you could either stop it and listen to it later or fast forward it, because we will kind of have a little bit more segments after this portion. But, other than that, maybe come to a place that you find may be comfortable for you. That could be sitting down, that could be lying down, that could be standing up, that might even be walking and doing a kind of a mindful walking meditation. One way I like to do this is I'm usually kind of like a sitter, so I like to come to a sitting um, posture. Some people may choose to close their eyes. Some may choose to focus on just one spot a little bit higher right in front of you. If you can find maybe one object that's just a little bit above, like maybe on the ceiling or something like that, that might be another option. And just kind of consider coming towards and connecting with your breath and taking a few moments to do maybe a check-in with your breath and your body and feeling the rhythm of your breath and your body together. And maybe just kind of surveying parts of your body and where it's connecting to a couch or a chair, anything that may be supporting you now. And know that there's no right or wrong way to breathe. But one way I like to do this is slowing the breath. So I may choose to do a count of 4. So I'll inhale on a count of 4. And I'll hold it for a count of 4. And exhale on a count of 4. And maybe another inhale. And hold it. And exhale. And maybe you play around with it. What would it be like to change the speed of your breath? You might choose to go faster, slower. You might notice how your body changes or doesn't change with the slight changes in your breath. And as you begin to focus, if you're choosing to, on your breath in this moment, what are you noticing about how it flows through your body, around your body? Maybe you're bringing attention to your chest area or your belly area. Maybe you notice different temperature changes as you play around with your breath, moving in and out or around or up or down or through. Another way of settling into the moment is maybe taking your hand, that might be your right or your left hand or maybe even a finger, and bringing it towards maybe your chest, maybe your heart area, and maybe bringing the other hand to another part of your body. And what do you notice as your body moves and vibrates, as you really get to experiment with the different changes of your breath? Maybe you notice changes in temperature. Maybe parts of your body feel different on one side versus the other side. And as you work with the rhythm of your breathing, what do you notice about being in this moment at this time? And maybe you notice things like tension or discomfort. Or maybe you notice things about relaxation and ease. And this is without judgment. This is just you in this moment, taking a few minutes to reconnect with the body as one option that you're giving yourself right now. This sense of freedom without judgment. Some people may notice twitching sensations. Other people may have the urge to want to scratch. And what would it be like if you resisted those urges? Or if you melted into those urges, that this is your option, this is your sense of connecting and freeing yourself in this moment. And what would it be like if you gave yourself an affirmation, maybe something that is heartfelt, meaningful, significant for you? What would that affirmation be? What would you want to tell yourself about who you are, or how you're showing up, or what you want out of life, what you're looking for, or maybe your desires? And maybe when you're done with that practice, maybe allowing yourself to just move your body in any way that may be comfortable or freeing for you. Some people might stretch, maybe moving the head a little bit, or the feet or the toes, maybe opening your eyes into the experience. So that would be kind of an mindful way of giving yourself this beautiful connection where you can slow down without judgment and allow yourself to experience things like changes in temperature, maybe things that are experienced on the skin like tingling sensations or itching sensations, maybe sounds or that you might hear or smells that you might smell in terms of a meditation practice?
Wow, I really found that to be very powerful, and I'll tell you why. I think that a lot of people who deal with trauma in their life, they get to the point to where people are always getting them to try to force them to talk about it and speak on it, but a lot of times people don't really want to talk about what traumatized them. So when it comes to that meditation practice, it's something that a person can do on their own time, and they don't have to worry about going back and forth with an actual person. If they want to do that in addition to the meditation, that probably would be great. But I think it's important for people to have practices that really just involve them diving deep within themselves, because I feel like that really will get to the root cause of the issue, as opposed to just talking with somebody back and forth, which could also help. But I think it's important to get to the root cause of the issue for sure.
And I think that's important. Everything doesn't need to be talked about to be processed. Some things need to be worked through the body. There's a very popular book that most people will reference, The Body Keeps the Score, and it talks about how trauma is stored in the body. Now, in the body of research in terms of trauma, this has been talked about for centuries. So I can't give credit to one author because we've been talking about this before that book, and we will continue to talk about it after. But most people know it in terms of that book. So thanks for at least spreading the word and getting it out there through The Body That Keeps the Score. But when things are done, especially in childhood, when there's no conscious memory, let's say from birth to 5, the body remembers. And when we're adults, it's manifested in the form of a trigger. And sometimes we don't know. This is kind of how it happens. Let's say when you were 3 years old, you were looking outside of a window and you saw a guy shoot another guy. And you didn't really kind of understand that. But in that car seat, you observed how your mom and dad responded, and they had anxiety. Maybe they sped off. Maybe they had to get involved with the police. And you are taking all of this in terms of your body with really no language to represent what is being experienced. It's only through your perception, what you feel, what you're hearing, what you're seeing. And so the mind is trying to make a story, trying to make sense of it. Safety may be established. Fast forward 30 years later, you might be driving with your partner in the car, and at a red light, you see a person with a blue shirt walk by. And all of a sudden, you get real pissed off and you yell at your partner and say, "Why are you always driving so slow? You need to go faster." And the partner's like, okay, chill. What's wrong with you? But and this is unconsciously, in this unconscious part of your mind, your body reacted because it was trying to get you to remember what happened when you were 3, and that it wasn't a blue shirt, it was a blue car. But this blue car caused chaos with your family, and maybe that 3-year-old got scared. And so you had to run. So you go in fight or flight. The sympathetic system is activated. You go in fight or flight, and you yell at your partner because you want that partner to be in fight. You want them to flee or fight, right? We don't want to be
Right.
like in freeze. We're like, no. And so see how important it is to reconnect with our bodies. So sometimes even when you're triggered throughout the day, you don't go to the mind. You don't say, "What am I thinking?" You go to the body. You say, "What is the body telling me?" "Oh, I'm pissed off that my partner wouldn't speed off." Instead, you say in that moment, "Oh, what am I noticing about my body? I notice I have agitation. I notice that maybe my fists got a little tighter. I notice I rolled my eyes. My heart started to beat faster. Maybe I started to salivate." Salivate could have been a response in terms of being triggered, right? Um, and
Yeah.
then once you can identify that, then anxiety may come up. And then you say, "Oh, that's anxiety. This is what it's like to remember anxiety."
And so then maybe even, and this is only kind of like with psychotherapy, though, this isn't really you can't really kind of do some of this stuff on your own, but with psychotherapy, you're then able to identify the blue shirt and the blue car. And then you have that integration of the body and the mind, and the symptoms go away. That's it. Then you no longer have that trigger. You get more triggers in life, but you no longer have that trigger because you got it. The body said, oh, you remembered. Thank you. The mind said, I was trying to forget because this was too traumatic and too hard. And I don't want to remember because I want to distract my things with everything like social media. But then you settled into it and you had that integration of the body and the mind. And you know what else? The spirit was observing it all and said, thank you. You're getting it.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I think that what you just said was just so important because a lot of times when we go through life, there's so many events happening in our day-to-day lives that it's easy to be triggered and set off by what people say or do to us. But once you learn how to really be aware of how your body responds to certain stimulus and certain, people and things like that, you can kind of start to reprogram yourself to not be as mad or to not be as, upset. And
Yep.
that helps in so many different ways. I mean, so I think it's important. And
Let me slow you down. Let me slow
go
you down
ahead.
because I'm always going to do that.
Okay.
You started off by saying it's so easy to be triggered, and then you went into this beautiful thing. It's so easy not to be triggered.
Yeah.
Just do the work. Find out what's going on with you, and you don't get triggered with life. It becomes experienced in this happy way. It's not
Yeah.
that you don't have emotions. You might get mad, but you understand that the anger is not about the external, the person who cut you off on the freeway or the person who didn't give you the right change, that the anger is something internal. And what a great gift to give yourself, even with that, if you're willing to do the work. So it's easy not to be triggered if you're willing to do the work.
Yeah, for sure. I think it just comes down to that, a person's willingness to really put the work in, because it may not be easy at first and it may take a while. This may be, a lifelong process that people
It
have to
takes
go
a
through.
lifetime. You got it. It
Yeah, yeah,
takes a
yeah.
lifetime. You got it. But that's the beautiful part about it, because if you get it in your 20s, you get to enjoy the rest of the 80 or 90 years. If you get it in your 30s, you get to enjoy the rest of the 60 years. If you get it in your 40s, you get to enjoy the rest of your life, because it is for a lifetime. And once you figure this stuff out early on and get to know yourself, life is just beautifully experienced regardless of what is externally happening. That's one of the keys. And that's why I say
Yeah.
the spirit is the observer, because then the spirit becomes pleased and is just observing all this beautifulness.
Wow. Yeah, for sure. And just to kind of add on to that, I feel like people who maybe, people who are a little bit older in their stages in life, they may not be necessarily as open to trying new things and developing new habits, but I think that's just something that people kind of have to get over. So, it's like anything else in life. Like if you get too stuck in the past and what's going on, like you're going to fall behind. So, you kind of want to stay with the times that we live in. And in these days we live in, there's really been a big focus on mental health and being sensitive to trauma, because people are starting to become more aware that these things actually exist and people can have more spaces to talk about them. So it's not so much as a taboo subject as it was in the past, whereas,
Yep.
especially in the Black communities, we really didn't discuss mental health too much.
Mm-mm.
So I'm glad that we're having these conversations and we can kind of shed light on these topics. So
It was kind of hushed, like there's
yeah,
something wrong with you. We kind of hush that part of the family, or we don't bring it up. We avoid those conversations. Avoiding is not healing. Avoiding is continual, the generational trauma over and over again. If you want to stop generational trauma, work on you. If you heal you, you heal 7 generations before you and 7 generations after you. That's how you stop generational trauma. Work on you, no one else.
Incredible. Well, I want to thank you so much for your time. Before we wrap up, is there anything you wanted to add to the subject?
I just wanted to read the last part of the part of this section.
Okay.
It says, there are selective words used in trauma sensitive meditation. I avoid giving directions. Instead of saying things like we must or we should, I use words like your or like your. This is your practice, your thinking, your exploration. It connects you to the internal experience. There is a shared meditative experience and energy exchange. We may experience a different practice. We may make different choices about this practice. And although I may be trained or certified to do these type of meditations and practices, I move away from being a meditation expert. We are not engaging in a therapist-patient relationship, but I am a facilitator of our practice. Let me say that again. I am a facilitator of our practice because it is an exchange between us during this experience. We are both participants working collectively during the meditation experience, and I will use neutral language like I welcome you to join in any way that suits you in this moment. You may choose to find a relaxing form for your body, knowing that you can make many changes at any moment. You might simply take a breath. You might gently relax your body, or simply tense your body, or you may just have little or no movements. And that's kind of the meditation. I did a whole series, a whole season when I went through, I think part of it is season 3 and part of season 4, where I went through the octaves method and I did some journaling prompts to that. And then with each of those, I added a trauma sensitive meditation in that. So if you wanted some things to listen to, go to sleep, the last thing you hear when you wake up before you get on that phone or social media, these will be great things to kind of add to your toolbox. Everybody wants tools. These are great things to add to your toolbox.
Absolutely. And once again, I want to thank you so much for your time. I hope we gave the audience a lot of value within this episode. So with that being said, that is all the time we have for today. Make sure if you haven't already, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. And with that being said, take care and bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
We hope that you have found today's episode insightful and helpful on your wellness journey. If you have enjoyed the episode, please share with others. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a review. It lets us know that all the work that we're doing is meaningful to you, and we'll continue to share simple techniques to help you move towards wellness, happiness, and success. Remember, this podcast is part of a bigger plan, building towards affordable group sessions and annual retreats, and we'd love to have you join us as we grow this movement. I will leave you with this thought. The body wants to heal. Get the mind out of the way. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. The rhythm of healing, the octaves method. O is for observation, through stillness we find meditation and breath work that quiet the mind. In silence we listen, the answers are clear, awareness emerges, dissolving the fear. C is for compassion, for self and for all, embracing the good, the struggles, the fall. With kindness we grow, we nurture, we mend, learning to love ourselves as we extend. T is for therapy, a path we explore. Daily we practice unlocking the door. From journaling to mindfulness, healing begins. Each step is a victory as peace settles in. A is for animals and laughter so bright, like children at play, their joy taking flight. With playfulness and movement, we rediscover the way to heal through the fun that we often delay. V is for victuals, nourishing and pure, detoxifying the body and keeping us sure. We choose what we eat with intention and grace, fueling our journey at our own pace. E is for exercise, where movement is free. We stretch and we bend in sweet harmony. Flexibility grows with choices we make. In strength and in stillness, our bodies awake. S is for socialize, where self-growth begins. Others reflect our triggers and the places within. Through relationships, our true selves we find, growing and healing with each tie that binds. The octaves method, where all behavior makes sense. We just need to find the sense it presents. We just need to find the sense it presents. We just need to find the sense it presents.